Naomi Sinclair to the stage. The voice thundered through the packed auditorium, slicing through the murmur of laughter and chatter. A spotlight snapped on, pinning Naomi in the back row, still holding a pen, mid-schedule. A stiff snare hit. On stage, the microphone stood ready, and down front, Blake, the golden-haired poster boy, smirked like he'd just played the final card in a rigged game. Comment 1 if you felt the setup and are waiting for a twist that flips it all. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Westmore Academy lacked for nothing, except fairness. A place where children of corporate empires learned to pretend diversity was decorative. Naomi was one of the few black students here, and certainly the only one attending under an art scholarship, a program the board still referred to as charity outreach behind closed doors. Ivory walls, marble floors, Porsches in the lot, a stage built for show. But Naomi, she was never meant to stand on it, until today. Naomi, 16, daughter of Vivian Johnson, a 5-time Grammy-winning diva known worldwide. But Naomi never wanted that name to follow her. At Westmore, Johnson wasn't a badge of respect. It was a target. She was labeled famous offspring. Black quota, her hair in neat, tight braids, gray hoodie, always in the back of the class. She stayed out of the spotlight, the very space her mother thrived in. Naomi sang, but only alone. She wrote, but kept her lyrics locked away in a nameless notebook. And today, she knew that spotlight wasn't an invitation. It was a setup. You signed up, didn't you? Don't worry, everyone's excited to hear you. Principal Reynolds smiled like he was granting Naomi some royal honor. But Naomi had never signed anything. Someone forged her name. It was Blake and his crew. It started the day they overheard Naomi humming in the music room. They planned the whole thing, signed her up, lined up phones to capture her crash and burn. Either you go up, the principal added with a pointed look, or we assume you've got nothing worth showing. The auditorium buzzed. Whispers, suppressed chuckles. Naomi rose slowly, feet heavy as lead. Every eye locked on her, not with support, but with anticipation of failure. In her mind, a fresh email echoed. Berklee College of Music had invited her to audition in person. One detail stuck. It was her mother, Vivian, who had secretly submitted the recording. Naomi reached the mic. No music, no prep, no one beside her. She looked down. Blake held up his phone, recording. Then, from the back of her memory, rose a melody never released, written by her mother, Invisible Roots. I think I'll sing something my mother wrote, just for me. Naomi's voice was calm, transformed. No intro, just breathe. Then, the first note, software trembling, then solid, like roots cracking through concrete. Naomi didn't just sing, she told a story of a child born from a bloodline too often forgotten, of fighting to exist in a world that denies her roots. The auditorium held its breath. The phones once raised to film humiliation, now captured something no one dared interrupt. The song ended in stillness. No laughter, no chatter, just that heavy silence, the kind only real art can command. Up front, Ms. Rivera, the music teacher who had seen Naomi alone in the practice room but never heard her voice, wept, not because the song was flawless, but because Naomi had refused to be a victim. She had taken back control. Naomi stepped off stage. Blake's eyes followed her. His smirk faded. Quietly, he slid his phone away, typed a few words, and hit send. An anonymous email shot across the school network. Subject line, Diva's daughter just mimicking, here's proof. This time, the sabotage didn't need a mic, just one tap and 1,000 recipients. The game wasn't over, it had just begun. The last note had barely faded when the stage lights began to flicker wildly. A piercing screech tore through the auditorium, followed by a heavy electronic bass crashing into Naomi's delicate ballad. The room jolted, laughter erupted, jeers rang out. Phones were raised again, but not in support this time. Comment 1, if you've ever seen something beautiful get ruined just because someone couldn't stand to see it shine. What comes next will leave you speechless. In the back of the auditorium, the small window of the sound booth creaked open. A figure hunched over the mixer, a laptop nearby flashing a preloaded EDM track. This wasn't a glitch. It was a targeted hit, and it landed the moment Naomi earned something rare: silence from respect. Down front, Ms. Rivera whipped around, her eyes scanning the crowd. She knew this wasn't random. Near the back row, Eli Carter, Naomi's roommate, stared at his phone. He silently launched an app monitoring the venue's audio channels. A red alert flashed. External interference detected. Eli was the kind of kid everyone forgot existed. Frizzy hair, headphones always on, fingers always typing. But yesterday, he'd seen the code Blake bragged about in their class. Discord. Watch this tomorrow night. Drop the beat at 2:13. He hadn't known Naomi would be the target. Now he knew exactly who they came for. Distorted sounds filled the room. Students began clapping, mockingly. One of Blake's crew shouted, "Nice mashup, Johnson!" Real original. Laughter tangled with the beat, drowning out everything else. Naomi froze. Should she stop? Keep going? She saw Blake lean back, laughing like he'd already won. Worse, she saw some teachers look away. They weren't on her side. Part of her wanted to leave. But another part started counting the tempo. Naomi closed her eyes. She remembered touring with her mom in Detroit, the time the speakers blew out mid-show. Vivian didn't scream, didn't stop. She switched tempo, improvised the entire song, turned it into a freestyle remix the audience still called legendary. Turn a mistake into a riff, her mother once said. Naomi inhaled deeply. She opened her eyes. Her grip tightened on the mic. She tilted her head, stepped back, and then began to sing the chorus again, this time to the hijacked beat. Nobody knew what was happening until Naomi took control. Her voice didn't fight the beat, it wrote it, each lyric adjusted, rephrased, riffed. Her tone bent into the bass line like it had always been part of the arrangement. The auditorium froze. A few students stood up. Others raised their phones, flashlights on, not to humiliate, to witness, like a real concert. Blake was stunned. No more smirk. His hands, slightly trembling, held the phone lower now. Naomi ended with a spin, hand raised like a DJ dropping the final beat. No applause, not yet. The room was still digesting what just happened. Then, an eruption, thunderous claps. Thomas, one of Blake's own friends, stood up first. Then the whole row. Ms. Rivera didn't clap. She didn't need to. Tears in her eyes, she nodded once. Naomi bowed, not from shame, but from delivering a performance even she hadn't known she had in her. Backstage, Naomi sat alone. Her heart raced. Her arm trembled with adrenaline. Ms. Rivera entered, handed her a bottle of water. "You knew they'd try something," Naomi nodded. "Blake hinted at it, but I didn't think they'd actually go that far." "And you still went up?" "Because if I didn't, they'd get to define me forever." Meanwhile, in the lobby, Blake huddled with his crew. A new video had been uploaded, but not the raw version, a mashup, slicing clips of Naomi's mom performing 20 years ago over Naomi's voice. Caption: genius or just a playback of the past? Naomi had just stepped out of the rehearsal room when the notifications exploded. 30, 70, over 100 comments in just minutes. She opened her phone. An anonymous account had posted a spliced video, her recent performance merged with old footage of her mother, Vivian Johnson, the legendary diva. The caption blared in red: "Diva's daughter just copying the past. Nothing original here." No direct insults, but frame by frame it painted her as a fraud, a shadow, a leech. Comment 1 if you've ever been labeled something you never chose, and saw yourself in Naomi. What comes next will make you furious, but also show you why she couldn't stay silent anymore. In under an hour, the clip hit 50,000 views. Comments split into camps. Vivian's old fans sounded confused. Students tagged each other under the Naomi remixed her mom part. Hashtags popped up. # fake talent, # charity project. Naomi knew this wasn't some casual edit. The video quality, caption layout, release timing, everything was engineered. This wasn't round one, this was phase two. And this time it was happening in a space where she had no mic to answer back. While Naomi sat frozen in her dorm, a new text popped up from an unknown number. "It's me. Don't panic. We'll talk soon." RT Richard Torres, Grammy-winning producer Naomi's silent godfather. He had once sworn never to intervene in her school life, unless it spiraled beyond her control. He wasn't just the man who launched Vivian's career. He was the first to discover Naomi's voice, when she was just 12, and now he was watching every move, from afar. "Did you know the original clip was shot with professional cameras?" Torres asked on the phone. Naomi hesitated. "I never sent any recordings to Berkeley," she said. "But yesterday I got an invitation to audition." Torres paused. "Vivian sent it." Naomi's breath caught. "She did? And didn't tell you?" "Because she didn't think I was good enough." Because she knew you'd be scared to prove her wrong." A heavy silence hung in the air. Naomi ended the call, not from anger, from heartbreak. That night, Naomi returned to the music room, the place she once sang alone after school. But this time, she wasn't alone. Ms. Rivera was already there, a file folder in hand. "In my 3 years mentoring the student press, I recorded every council meeting," she said. "And Blake talked a lot in those meetings." Naomi flipped through the transcripts, Blake bragging about rigging the talent show, influencing scholarship results, even laughing. Let her think she got invited for her talent. "You want to know who made that video?" Eli appeared at the door, laptop in hand. "Just trace the IP," he said without looking up. "It came from the student president's office, logged in as BHAMMOND. Naomi's eyes widened. "And here's more." Eli turned his screen. A leaked group chat from Blake's inner circle. "What if it actually goes viral? Then we post the mashup. No one will know." The perfect mask started to crack. This time, there was proof. Naomi didn't need to post a counter video. Instead, she, Ms. Rivera, and Eli began compiling evidence, leaked chats, IP logs, meeting transcripts, metadata breakdowns. "We're not uploading this online," Naomi said. "We're confronting Blake, in person. In an official school board meeting, with the principal, with the council, and with a special guest." Naomi nodded. "Bring him in." Ms. Rivera smiled. "Richard Torres won't say no." 2 days later, Blake called a student council meeting himself to discuss integrity in school artistic practices. A brilliant move, if no one knew he was the saboteur. Naomi, Eli, and Ms. Rivera took their seats at the back. Right then, the auditorium doors opened. A black man in a sharp black suit stepped in, cutting through the whispers. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, "but I was invited to tune the sound back to truth." Introducing Richard Torres. And Blake's little game was about to hit playback. "We have reason to believe certain performances in the talent show received unauthorized technical assistance." Blake stood at the podium, blazer crisp, hair slicked back, face calm like a young prosecutor. In front of him sat Principal Reynolds, the faculty board, parent representatives, and dozens of students. Every gaze zeroed in on Naomi, who sat silently in the last row. Comment 1 if you've ever been turned into the scapegoat in a drama, written by the one who caused it. But don't blink, today's audience won't be clapping on cue anymore. The meeting had been called at Blake's request, as student body president, to uphold artistic integrity within the academic community. He chose the main auditorium, requested internal live streaming, and invited all honors student parents. On paper, it was a disciplinary hearing for rule violations in performance conduct. In reality, it was a revenge stage. Blake's plan to turn Naomi into an example. No one escapes my grip in this school. Thomas Grayson, son of a real estate tycoon, sat beside Naomi. He'd once been Blake's close friend, but after that voice in the talent show, and after the chat Blake sent their group, "We need to shut this down before it goes viral." Thomas chose a different side. "I'm the one who sent the original audio to Ms. Rivera," he whispered. Naomi gave a quiet nod, not out of surprise, but because she knew, once truth is sung, someone always listens. "We reviewed Naomi Sinclair's performance," Blake said, voice composed. "We found irregular use of electronic sound layering and unreported musical elements, suggesting technical manipulation." The principal nodded, taking notes. A few teachers exchanged uncertain looks. "I'm not here to accuse blindly," Blake continued, his eyes brushing past Naomi. "But standards must be upheld." Naomi said nothing. She turned to Ms. Rivera, who was holding a USB drive in her hand. Before any conclusion, Ms. Rivera stood, her voice calm. "I request to play a supplementary video." The principal agreed. The projector blinked on. The big screen displayed the talent show, but this time, the raw version, unedited, no captions, no cuts. The moment Naomi's vocals were drowned with electronic overlays. Yet she adapted, stayed strong, rode the tempo like a pro. Confused looks spread through the audience. Then, the next clip played, security footage from backstage, clearly showing Blake and his two friends sneaking into the audio booth. There was no denying this. This is doctored," Blake stammered. "It's fake." "And this message thread? Also fake?" A deep voice echoed from the center of the hall. Everyone turned. A black man in a sleek black suit stepped forward down the aisle. "Apologies for the interruption. I'm Richard Torres, here as an artistic consultant." The principal stood, startled. "Mr. Torres? The producer?" "Yes, and the one who recorded Naomi Sinclair's debut album last year, which, by the way, releases next month." Gasps rippled across the room. Blake went pale. The screen shifted again. Screenshots of group messages between Blake and his crew, clearly laying out the smear campaign. Torres stepped forward. "No one was fooled. You just didn't want to believe that a black scholarship girl could be actually talented." Principal Reynolds lowered his head. "Blake Hammond, you are suspended from your duties as student president. All extracurricular activities halted pending investigation." Blake couldn't speak. As he stood and walked out of the auditorium, the same people who once clapped for him now bowed their heads. After the meeting, Naomi was invited to speak. She stood under the auditorium lights, voice steady. "I don't want to be remembered as someone's daughter. I want to be seen as me, by my music, my choices, and the silence I was forced to carry for 6 months in this school." She paused. But silence is no longer an option. The next morning, Naomi walked into the cafe near campus and saw herself on the cover of the Oakland Star. Daughter of legendary diva, the new music phenomenon at Westmer. The photo captured her mid-performance, hand raised, stage lights shimmering behind her. A stunning image, but the headline stung. No mention of Naomi Sinclair. No mention of invisible roots. Just, "Daughter of me, comment 1 if you've ever been noticed, but for something that wasn't even yours." Fame is a spotlight, but pointed the wrong way, it can make you disappear. Ever since the council hearing, Naomi was no longer the girl in the back row. Teachers asked for her opinion more often. Classmates started accidentally tagging her in their posts. Online, the clip of her performance went viral across dozens of pages, with headlines like, "Scholarship Girl Brings Entire Auditorium to Their Feet," "The Girl Who Flipped a Rigged Stage." But no one asked how she felt. No one asked, "Did you even want to be famous?" That afternoon, Naomi got a message. "Come downstairs. Your mother's waiting." Vivian Johnson, the acclaimed diva, had just returned from Europe. No sunglasses, no entourage. just a mother standing by the wall holding 2 cups of tea. You weren't going to come greet me? I was afraid. You'd try to take over again. Vivian said nothing, then handed Naomi the tea. This time, I'm here to listen. They sat on the wooden bench. For the first time in months, no one was playing a role. You sent my demo to Berkeley without telling me, Naomi said, not angry, just searching for an answer. Because if I asked, you'd say no. Because I didn't want to be famous. That way. No one ever does, Naomi, but sometimes your voice needs to be heard, before even you believe it matters. Naomi looked at her mother. It didn't soothe her, but she understood that sometimes love doesn't wait for permission. It moves to protect. Naomi opened her laptop. She didn't speak. She typed. The title read, I'm not someone's daughter. I am me. She wrote about the talent show, about the sabotaged beat, about the years she thought her voice was something to hide, about how people called her a phenomenon. But no one asked how long she had studied music. Eli sat beside her, helping tweak the wording. This post's gonna spread faster than the video, he said. I don't need it to spread, Naomi replied. I just need them to hear it. From me. The post went up that night. No filters, no logo. Just an audio clip Naomi recorded on her phone. Invisible Roots, original acoustic version. By morning, Ija Let Her Speak and Invisible Roots were trending across the region. No one shared it like a viral stunt. They shared it like a statement. Naomi didn't read every comment, but one line stayed with her. She's not famous because of who she's from. She's famous because she said what most of us were too scared to. The following week, Berklee College of Music sent an official email, not just an audition callback, but a scholarship invitation for young artists creating positive social impact through music. Naomi didn't cry. She didn't leap with joy. She just stepped out into the hallway and saw Ms. Rivera on the phone. See, her teacher smiled. When you speak in your true voice, the world listens in quiet respect. Though Naomi was celebrated, respected, and asked to speak publicly, she still felt something was unchanged. During one class, a student whispered, Guess she gets special treatment now, huh? Naomi heard it. She didn't respond. That night, in an after-school music workshop, Ms. Rivera introduced a new program, Expressing Identity Through Music, a dedicated session for young Black girls. Naomi stood. You need help running the class? I always do, Rivera smiled. Monday morning, a special announcement was posted across all Westmore bulletin boards. Temporary suspension of Blake Hammond, with immediate interim adjustments to student council leadership. Right below that, in smaller text, launch of multicultural dialogue initiative and anti-discrimination reform policies. Naomi glanced at the board, then turned away. She didn't smile. Because she knew real change doesn't start on paper. It starts in hallways still filled with side eyes and silent judgment. Comment 1 if you've ever seen a system begin to shift, but weren't sure you could trust it. Because change doesn't begin with policy, it begins with action. After the Blake incident, campus went quiet, but not everyone was on Naomi's side. So she's a hero now, huh? Someone whispered behind her in biology class. One song, one clip, and suddenly she speaks for everyone. Naomi didn't respond, but she remembered. She was starting to understand. Victory doesn't erase bias, it only unmasks it. She didn't want more spotlight. She wanted the system to shift, not for her, but for the next one, who might not have a voice loud enough to fight back. A week later, the school named an interim principal while Reynolds was under investigation, Vice Principal Garcia, a multicultural education specialist, former advisor to elite boarding schools in New York. Garcia, a stern-eyed Latina woman, had a voice soft as morning mist. She entered Naomi's class unannounced, quietly taking a seat in the back. When students whispered, "Who's she?" she just smiled. Naomi looked at her. In those eyes, there were no promises. But there was something Naomi could trust. This woman had come to listen, not to lecture. Guess you can't say anything to Naomi now or you'll get expelled, a kid from another class said loudly at the gym. Naomi heard it, and for the first time she replied, "Has anyone gotten expelled yet?" The boy hesitated. "Then don't speak on what you don't know. I'm not getting special treatment, I'm just not being ignored anymore." She walked away without waiting for a reaction, but inside she knew. To some people, a black girl winning was more threatening than any powerful song. Ms. Rivera launched the first session of Expressing Identity Through Music. No syllabus, no grades, just a circle of chairs and a single guitar in the middle. "No one has to speak," she said, "but if there's something you've kept silent about, maybe today's the day to sing it." Naomi said nothing, but when class ended, she stayed behind. She quietly picked up the guitar, played a few chords, no lyrics, just melody. The room went still. Ms. Rivera simply placed a hand on her shoulder. No questions, no pressure. Garcia held an all-school assembly, and she made the announcement herself. The talent show will be renamed Festival Rises, the Festival of Roots, an annual celebration of art, honoring performances from every culture, every color, every form of expression. Garcia looked directly at Naomi, didn't say her name, but her eyes did. "This is the gift born from your silent rebellion." Some students objected. Most nodded, not because they fully understood, but because, for the first time, they saw something that wasn't being hidden anymore. Garcia invited Naomi to be the official face of the first festival Raíces. Naomi shook her head. "I don't need to be a symbol." Garcia smiled. "Then what do you want to be?" Naomi replied, "I want to be the one who clears the path." She volunteered to join the organizing team, helping choose performers, manage tech, and guide the production. But she never stepped on stage. She wanted others to be heard, not her voice, their truth. 3 years later, Naomi returned to the Westmore Auditorium as a special guest for the third annual Festival Raíces. The hall was adorned with multi-ethnic posters and banners that read, "Roots may be invisible, but they hold all the power." Backstage, a young black girl, hair braided tight, clutching a ukulele, was trembling. Naomi approached, took her hand. "You're not the first, and you won't be the last. Just sing." Comment 1 if you believe one voice can shake the game, but many voices, they change the whole system. "I've heard over 1,000 voices in my career as a music journalist," wrote a reporter for Rolling Stone. "But I've never seen a song turn fear into a manifesto quite like Invisible Roots." Naomi sat quietly in Torres's studio, reading the review. Her debut album had just landed 2 Grammy nominations. But that wasn't what she kept thinking about. It was the way people had finally started calling her by her own name, without adding, "the daughter of." Comment 1 if you've ever dreamed of being known by your real name. No edits, no labels, no footnotes. This journey didn't end on stage. It started there. Naomi returned to Westmore on the day of the third annual Festival Raíces, no longer a student, no longer in anyone's shadow. She wore a simple earth-toned sweater, jeans, and her braids pulled into a low bun. No spotlight followed her. The auditorium now overflowed with performances from every culture: singing, spoken word, street dance, classical music, beatboxing. She stood backstage, watching, and for the first time, she didn't feel stared at. She felt expected and respected. Backstage stood a black girl, about 13, gripping the strap of her ukulele so tightly her hands shook. Her name was Jada. She was chosen to close the show with an original song about growing up in a neighborhood where no one ever said her name right. Naomi walked over and sat beside her. "I used to shake like that too," she said gently. Jada looked up. "But you're Naomi Sinclair." Naomi smiled. "I used to be just a girl nobody believed could sing without cracking her voice." One of the organizers asked, "Would you join Jada on stage for a duet? It might help her feel less nervous." Naomi was silent. For a long time. She looked out toward the stage, the same one where years ago she'd stood surrounded by ridicule and blinding lights. She thought about coming back, about Jada's eyes, about the inherited fear Black kids carry when they stand before a white audience. I don't want to steal her moment, Naomi said softly. But if she needs someone behind her, I'll be there. Jada stepped out under the dim lights. Her hands trembled, but she strummed. When she hit the hardest part, her voice cracked, a flicker of panic. Then, Naomi emerged from the wings, said nothing. She sat at the piano and began to play soft backing chords, just enough to hold Jada up without overshadowing her. Jada kept going, each lyric stronger than the last, each note landing deeper. She didn't need a backup, but she knew. Someone understood what it took to sing through fear. When the song ended, the entire auditorium rose to their feet. Naomi stepped to the mic. No speech, no thanks. She simply said, 3 years ago, this stage was the place where they tried to silence me. Today, I choose to share it, so no one else has to trade their tears for a voice. She paused, then turned to Jada. We don't need an invitation to prove we belong on stage. We just need a mic and someone brave enough to listen. After the festival, Naomi didn't stay for the after party. She walked alone down the old school halls. On the wall, a new plaque had been installed, the Naomi Sinclair Music Room, where roots find their voice. No trophies, no framed photos, just a single line of text, and beneath it, the handwritten original sheet music for Invisible Roots, unproduced. She stood there, didn't touch it. She knew that song no longer belonged to her alone. It belonged to everyone who had once been silenced. On her way home, Naomi got a message from her mother. Proud doesn't even begin to describe it, but I'm most proud you walked it your way. She looked out the car window. No more stairs, no more whispers, just her and the wind. In a later interview, when asked, "How do you feel being called a young Black icon?" Naomi replied, "If my voice is being heard, I don't need to be an icon. I just need to know the door's no longer locked for the next." Naomi Sinclair didn't begin her journey with fame. She began with a song, written in silence, sung through ridicule, and performed standing tall when they wanted her to shrink. This isn't a miracle story. It's a reminder. You don't have to be a superhero to make change. You just need the courage not to stay quiet. Some doors were never opened for us, but sometimes the steady steps of someone once dismissed become the key for an entire generation. To the young Black kids who were misnamed, mislabeled as lucky or a diversity pick, you're not someone's extension. You're the story the world's been waiting to hear. To the women pushed out of boardrooms, silenced in brainstorms, yet who still show up every day with dignity. You're not weak. You're just waiting for the right moment to rise. To the elders, parents, grandparents, and who kept quiet to protect their children, thank you. You gave the next generation the belief that their voices matter. Naomi didn't win because she sang better than anyone. She won because she turned her pain into legacy. And if there's something inside you that's still unsaid, maybe now's the time to let it sing. Comment 1 if you believe. The truth, even when choked, can still become the most powerful song of all.